Are we going to witness the complete destruction of the country of Ukrainians? On February 24, 2022, the world's one of the largest military forces, Russia attacked Ukraine and the world was shocked. The geopolitical scenario deteriorated as the conflict escalated. Can Ukraine survive the war against Russia? Do they have enough tricks in their arsenal to defeat them? We'll try to find out in this video. Hello everyone, welcome to the Ukraine war. We are here to deliver to you all the new political movements regarding the Russia-Ukraine conflicts, the casualties, strategies, and the aftermaths of the ongoing war in detail. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon if you don't want to miss any of those. Let's start with how these two forces confronted each other on the battleground. The military capabilities of these two countries are so disproportionate that Ukraine's rebellious president Vladimir Zelensky pleaded with his Western friends to do more than slap sanctions to get Russian troops on Ukrainian soil overnight. The invasion, which is widely regarded as an act of aggression, has sparked Europe's largest refugee crisis since World War II, with more than 4.5 million Ukrainians fleeing the country and a fourth of the population displaced. The assault was a significant step forward in the Russo-Ukrainian War, which began following the Dignity Revolution in Ukraine in 2014. Following that, Russia annexed Crimea, and Russian-backed separatists seized part of Ukraine's southeastern Donbas region, triggering a war. Russia initiated a significant military buildup along the Ukrainian border in 2021, amassing up to 190,000 troops and their equipment. Russian President Vladimir Putin professed irredentist ideas in a broadcast just before the invasion and falsely accused Ukraine of being governed by neo-Nazis who persecuted the ethnic Russian minority. The Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic, two self-proclaimed breakaway states in Donbas controlled by pro-Russian rebels, were recognized by Russia on February 21, 2022. The Russian Federation Council authorized the use of military force abroad the next day, and overt Russian forces entered both areas. On the morning of February 24th, Putin announced a special military operation to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine. Minutes thereafter, missiles and aircraft attacked Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, and were quickly followed by a massive ground invasion from various directions. President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine responded by declaring martial law and mobilizing the military. This leads to a question about the military powers of both countries. Are they able to cope with each other's fury? Let's find out. When it comes to missile technology, Russia is a world leader. It can deploy its missiles to disable Ukraine's air defense systems as its land forces advance, capturing key infrastructures such as ports and airports and overwhelming Ukraine's army and infrastructure. Russian military force is the world's fifth largest, with roughly 1 million active duty people and at least 2 million reserve members. Russia is one of the top 5 countries that spend the majority of their GDP on defense. Russia spent $61.7 billion on its military, accounting for 11.4% of government spending, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Ukraine, on the other hand, spent $5.9 billion on its military, accounting for 8.8% of total government spending. The Russian armed forces, ranked as the world's second most powerful military, have the world's greatest stockpile of nuclear weapons, surpassing the U.S. arsenal. They have the world's second largest fleet of ballistic missile submarines and are one of only 3 militaries with strategic bombers together with China and the U.S. Russia boasts of having the world's largest tank fleet as well as a formidable air and naval force. Practically in every area of a head-to-head comparison of Ukraine's and Russia's military capabilities, Russia outnumbers Ukraine. Simply comparing the amounts of money spent on defense by the two countries reveals the disparity. According to the International Institute for Strategic Studies IISS publication, The Military Balance, Ukraine spent $4.7 billion in 2021, barely over a tenth of nuclear-armed Russia's $45.8 billion. While the Russian government began a modernization program in 2008 after a brief war with Georgia exposed equipment shortages, Ukraine's armaments are mostly from the Soviet era. However, as part of its NATO aspirations, Ukraine has restructured its armed forces and wants to re-equip its air force with Western combat aircraft by the mid-2030s. It also intends to improve its naval capabilities. Russia has a double superiority in ground forces, with 280,000 troops against Ukraine's 125,600. and its air force is roughly 5 times as large, with 165,000 troops compared to 35,000 in Ukraine. But in terms of how many troops are involved in this operation, Johann Michel, a research analyst who works on the IISS assessment, estimated that Russia had 200,000 troops in and surrounding Ukraine. Ukrainian forces, on the other hand, have conducted some successful counteroffensives. The armed forces' greatest strength has been the sheer willingness among Ukrainian troops to fight. It will be tough for Ukraine to fight back if Russia occupies the capital shortly. However, if Russia fails to do it, the war might drag on for a long time, and it is in this context that Michel believes Ukraine will prove to be a tremendous warrior country. According to Global Firepower, Russia is the world's second most militarily powerful country, whereas Ukraine ranks 22nd out of 140 countries. Russia possesses roughly 12,500 tanks, whereas Ukraine only has around 2,600 and 12,000 armored vehicles. Russia, on the other hand, possesses almost 30,000 armored vehicles. In terms of fighter jets, Russia possesses 772, whereas Ukraine only has 69. In response to Russia's military intervention in Ukraine in 2014, the president of Ukraine instructed the governors of Ukraine to form volunteer units under the government's territorial defense forces. Initially, these units got only a little amount of financing from regional budgets, relying primarily on donations. The majority of the territorial defense battalions were absorbed into the Ukrainian ground forces in November 2014. The Ukrainian National Guard is a paramilitary reserve component of the Ukrainian armed forces. Following hostilities with Russia in 2014, Ukraine expanded its armed forces to 204,000 troops, with 46,000 civil servants, excluding additional units such as border guards. President Volodymyr Zelensky planned a 100,000-man boost in the armed forces by 2025, with conscription ending in 2024. Although Western European countries have recently provided military equipment to Ukraine, the country's military capabilities pale in comparison to Russia's, which has one of the world's most powerful armed forces. Russia's air power is likewise superior to Ukraine's. Russia has about 4,100 aircraft, including 772 fighters, whereas Ukraine only has 318 total aircraft, including 69 fighters. Even though Ukraine does not have nuclear weapons today, it once had around 5,000 nuclear bombs. Before 1991, Ukraine was a part of the Soviet Union, which explains the current scenario. All states that had been forcible to the USSR gained many warheads as a result of its disintegration. They were originally owned by the Soviet Union. After becoming independent, Ukraine got everything that belonged to the Soviet Union, including nuclear weapons. As a result, Ukraine has surpassed Russia as the world's third largest nuclear weapons possessor. Ukraine, on the other hand, has been armed with anti-tank missiles obtained from the United States. Since December, Ukraine has received hundreds of Javelin missiles, which will aid Ukrainian troops in targeting Russian tanks. It's a man-portable fire-and-forget anti-tank missile, which means it can be fired from a soldier's shoulder, and its autonomous infrared guidance system will target tanks from above, the weakest component of any tank. Apart from the Javelin missiles, Ukraine's defense minister Oleksiy Reznikov has been tweeting about incoming military supplies from various Western powers, which included tons of ammunition, rifles, machine guns with optical sights, and night vision, surveillance systems, and other military equipment. Reznikov tweeted on February 11 that 90 tons of U.S. ammo had arrived, bringing the total military aid to almost 1,300 tons. According to the New York Times, the U.S. has given Ukraine security aid worth over $2.7 billion since 2014, including a $200 million package in December, comprising equipment like Javelin and other anti-armor systems, grenade launchers, large quantities of artillery, mortars, and small arms ammunition. Ukraine's leaders appear to have moved on to the next battle. Russia's formal military reserve army is thought to number in the millions. However, the Ukrainians are now attempting to supplement their 900,000 call-ups by ordering all men aged 18 to 60 to remain in the nation and equipping everyone wanting to pick up a weapon. Also, other countries' military units have routinely participated in multinational military drills in Ukraine with Ukrainian soldiers. Many of these drills were undertaken as part of NATO's Partnership for Peace cooperation program. It's clear that Russia has the upper hand in this war, but with the massive support from the rest of the world, Ukraine is not going to accept defeat easily. Let's hope that this crisis gets over as soon as possible. With that being said, that takes us to the end of the episode. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't hesitate to subscribe to our channel and push notifications bell to keep up with our work. See you soon. Until then, peace.